Round balers are marvelous machines. They give the farmer a one-man haying system, neatly rolling and wrapping the hay as they move along the windrows. But like any piece of machinery, some maintenance is required. On the 410 and 510 round balers, the upper belts take a lot of abuse, a lot of strain, and in due time they may fail. Some foreign object may tear them up, or they could just wear out. When that happens, does the farmer rush to buy a new belt? Not necessarily. If the section of broken or worn belt is short, 2 inches or less, you just cut it out and splice the two remaining good ends together. If longer, you simply splice in a new belt segment. Whatever, splicing a baler belt is quick and fairly easy, and the baler is back in service in no time. Let's see how it's done. The splicing procedure is almost the same for both the 12-inch and the 4-inch wide outer belts. In this program, we'll splice both widths. Assemble your tools. You'll need either a utility knife or a 10-inch belt cutter, a carpenter square, wire pliers, and either the 6-inch vise lacer or the 6-inch portable lacer. The vise lacer shown above is the one most commonly used. We'll show how both are used. So much for tools. For hardware, you'll need either 4 or 12-inch lacing wire and the proper quantity of hooks. Although number 3 hooks may be used, we recommend number 3 by 4.5 by 6 hooks because they're stronger. We'll stop the program here so you can assemble the tools and hardware and become familiar with them. Let's go. And to begin, let's splice a 12-inch belt using the vise lacer. Step 1 is to cut the old belt end off perfectly square. Take your time here. It must be squared up exactly to get an even splice. We're using a utility knife on this 12-inch belt. You can use the 10-inch belt cutter available through Service Tools on a 4-inch belt. Keep in mind that if you remove more than 2 inches from a belt without splicing in a new belt segment, you'll have to adjust all the remaining belts to match the newly repaired one. After the belt is cut off squarely, measure 3/8 of an inch along the top of the belt from the edge and 5/8 of an inch down the edge of the belt from the top. Then cut out the diagonal between these marks. Do this on both sides at each end of the belt. Next, get the hooks ready. Make a note of these figures. On a 12-inch belt, the leading edge receives 77 hooks, the trailing edge 76 hooks. On a 4-inch belt, the leading edge gets 22 hooks, the trailing edge 21 hooks. Remember, the pulling edge gets 1 more hook. We'll pause here so you can note these figures. 77 and 76 leading and trailing. 22 and 21 leading and trailing. From a master rack of number 3 by 4.5 by 6 hooks, cut off the number of hooks you'll need, 77 or 76, for our 12-inch belt. The vise lacer can hold 39 hooks at one time. You'll find it easier to cut off the number of hooks that the lacer will hold at one time and work with just that number. At any rate, load the hooks into the lacer, making sure the lacer is fully open. Be sure all hooks are fully seated. Then, insert the lacing rod all the way through and out the other side. This secures the hooks in the lacer. Remove all cardboard from around the hooks. It's a picky job, but it must be done thoroughly. Place the lacer in the vise. The hooks will hold the lacer open, and crank the vise shut until resistance is met. This procedure, especially the number of hooks you use, is different when using the portable lacer. But we'll stop the program here so you can practice getting the hooks ready and loading the lacer and vise. Now we're ready to actually make the splice. Insert the squared and notched belt end in the lacer, being very sure that the belt lies square and flush in the trough of the lacer. Set the belt in the lacer so that the hooks are centered in the belt. On a 12-inch belt, the first hook should be about 1/8 inch in from the inner edge of the belt notch. Now, and while still holding that belt end squarely in the lacer, crank the vise tight all the way. Open the vise and remove the belt. Turn the belt around. If the vise pressure was tight and uniform enough, the ends of the hooks will be evenly peened. You will also likely find that, for all your effort, the hooks aren't fully seated, but they should be virtually flush with the belt surface. That's where the shim attached to the lacer comes in. Reinsert the lacer and belt into the vise. Then, beginning at one end of the belt, tighten the vise again, this time with the shim between the vise jaw and hook edges. This concentrates pressure, forcing those hooks in flush with the belt surface. You just have to open the jaws a little ways each time to reposition the shim as you move the shim across the width of the belt. Now you're ready to lace the second half of our 12-inch belt. Remove the rod and load a new set of hooks, being sure that the long and short hooks remain staggered. Reinsert the belt into the lacer. Here, be sure that the last hook of the previous lacing is in the external slot at the end of the lacer. The last hook must rest in this external slot, or an uneven lace will occur. Then proceed as before, squaring the belt, tightening, inspecting, shimming. Repeat this whole procedure at the other end of the belt, and before you know it, you have a fully laced belt, good as new, ready for splicing. Inspect both belt ends to make sure that all the hooks are the same height across the width of the belts. Check the evenness of the hooks with a ruler or other straight edge. This is very important, for if the hooks are uneven, as shown above, belt stress and tension will be uneven, and that could cause a premature break. The hooks must be of even height, as shown below. We'll stop the program here so you can practice lacing with a vise lacer. Now we're ready for the splice itself. A pretty simple operation compared to the lacing. Load the belt into the baler. Remember, the leading edge has one more hook than the trailing edge. Just work the lacing wire through the hook loops. Then bend each end of the lacing wire at a 90-degree angle. This is so the wire ends won't strike the belt guides on the baler. Now, with one belt done by the vise lacer, let's back up for a moment and see how the procedure differs when using the portable lacer. Begin by cranking the small handle counterclockwise until the jaws are fully open. Then load the hooks. As before, insert the lacing rod and remove the cardboard. Note here that the portable lacer has a shallow slot at one end. The valley of this slot is deeper than the rest. If using 39 hooks, you must hold the last hook up into place between the lacer jaws while snugging up the hooks with a small crank. If this is not done, the hook may fall below the lacer jaws. Now, snug up the hooks by turning the small crank clockwise. Square the belt end in the lacer as before. Then tighten by turning the large crank clockwise. Here, you will need no shim to fully seat the hooks. The lacer pressure is enough, sometimes more than enough, to seat the hooks properly. This is because as you turn that large crank, the mechanism goes over center. You can feel it do this. In fact, if you set this crank to go too tight, to go too much over center, you'll damage the hooks and belt. To get it right, to get just the right amount of clamping pressure, you can adjust the tension by backing off the large handle and turning the small crank. Getting that clamping pressure just right may take some practice. Of course, with a 4-inch belt, it's easy. Just center the belt in the lacer, vise or portable. With only 21 or 22 hooks to work with, you don't have to be concerned about making 2 splices. However, with just a little practice, you'll be lacing and splicing belts in no time, getting them back into service with little delay and at little expense to a very pleased customer. We'll stop the program again here so you can practice actual splicing, and also so you can practice lacing and setting adjustment with a portable lacer, should you have one. Now that you've learned how to repair and splice failed upper belts, let's take a moment and go over what causes belts to fail in the first place. An important point to remember here is that the only warranty-covered failure is a separation of the belt from its fabric cord. Such a failure is shown here. Remember that so when a customer asks that a belt be replaced under warranty, you can identify just what caused that belt to fail and just maybe save your shop some unnecessary warranty expense. Let's now look at some other belt failures and their causes. This belt was burned on its fabric side by the middle drive roll when the belt stopped turning. It is caused by a plugging between the starter and scraper rolls, or a wrapping of the scraper roll. This can be prevented by any of four means: running with pickup high enough so foreign objects don't get pulled in, avoiding a crop which has a moisture content over 25%, reducing the PTO speed and using a higher tractor gear to maintain ground speed, or through proper weaving along the windrows. Belt punctures such as this are caused by foreign objects, rocks, metal, stones, even fence posts, being picked up and forced against the belt. This is prevented by avoiding such objects, or by running with the pickup at a high enough setting. This belt was torn when it just stopped turning, probably when it was forced into the starter roll. Tearing has several causes: baling a crop that is too wet, foreign objects, buildup of a dry crop between the belts, improper starting of the bale. Any or all of these can force the belt into the starter roll, resulting in a tear. The tear is caused by keystock on the starter roll. Again, the answer is to make sure the crop is dry enough to start the bale correctly and to weave correctly. And here especially, to make sure that the scraper is properly adjusted. All these failures are covered in this service information bulletin. Note especially that the failures are illustrated, so there is no doubt as to their type. Torn belts, burned belts, punctured belts. Just about all these belt failures are caused by improper baler operation, improper roll adjustment, picking up foreign objects, a crop that is too wet, plugs caused by not getting the bale formed right. The point is, they are not your fault, not John Deere's fault. Only this may be our fault: a belt ply separation. It is normally caused by defective materials or workmanship, and you repair it either by relacing and resplicing the belt. Whatever the cause of belt failure, do a good job. Fix it right. You and your customer will both receive better service from your John Deere round baler.